Um, I can read a quote.
Oh, yes.
Go
A
ahead.
quote would
Yeah.
be good.
Okay, so this is one that you probably heard, but I've been musing on it after Charles said these quotes in his talk, so I can't hear it enough. Um, Whatever this is Baba, whatever life holds for you is an act imparted by me in my production of the universe. And you can act best if you are happy in my will. Don't worry, and all will be well. Meher Baba. Such a. Uh, and then you probably all saw this, so it's just repeats of the greats. But he mentioned about his dog Buff and how he loved Buff so much, and he was sort of an awkward, introverted teenager, and Buff and him as a collie, and he stayed very close with Buff all the time. And Buff Baba always wrote love to Buff on his when he'd send a telegram. And then Buff died, and he was just broken, really broken hearted, being a young teenage boy. And Baba wrote him this: "Be in my love for you, resigned and happy. Your love for me will help Buff." So I just I put a your love for me will help blank, so that whenever this day comes that one of my dear ones goes, I'll just put that name in there, because it's not about just being happy. It's not about being resigned. It's about being happy and resigned, which is much more difficult. So,
Yeah,
thanks.
totally. Well said.
I have a quote from Mark Twain, which is very appropriate to the time we're in. And here it is. There is no sin so hard to forgive in others than their differences of opinion. Mark Twain.
Read it again.
There is no sin so hard to forgive in others than their differences of opinions.
Oh boy.
Oh boy, oh boy. And this was a quote that showed up on Facebook today. Somebody put it up. Differences between mind and heart. And it's by Mayor Baba. Feelings at rest, thoughts at work is mind. Thoughts at rest and feelings at work is heart. Mayor Baba.
Yeah.
There's that song that I've sang lately, "Happiness is Better," which is from Bow. And there's one verse I'd like to say. It's, "Oh, scientists, I do not criticize you because you do good work in the world in order to help mankind. But why do you ask for proof of the existence of God when He is your very life? You cannot deny your own existence when He is your very life."
Beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
I woke up the other morning in this line. I mean, woke upon waking. I wake up real early, and the line was, "Make your heart into Bethlehem, and your Jesus will be born."
Ooh.
You know,
Love that.
I don't know where that came from.
Hey, I have a quote I can read. I have come to make people blind to illusion. I have come to make you dead to your lower self. I have come to redeem you from the round of birth and death.
I've got a quote from only As Only God Can Love, which is a book that Darwin wrote when he's describing the three incredible weeks. And on the first week in 1954, on Tuesday, September 14th, Baba said, "One who wants nothing gets everything. Nothing means nothing, and one who wants nothing is never disappointed." I always love that one.
Brilliant.
I was going to read this the other day and I didn't. I was going to read a quote about faith, and then I found a letter that Mani wrote about faith. So I'll read the one from Baba first. "You must have complete faith in me. When an individual has 100% faith in me and leaves everything to me, the burden automatically falls on my shoulders. I have my universal work to do and I'm totally engrossed in it, but the weight of the individual's burden reminds me of my responsibility toward him, and I do everything for such a person." And then I was reading this book with letters of the Mandalay of Mayor Baba, and I came across this letter that Mani wrote on October 16th, 1961, about his promise, which I very well remember. "You first expressed surprise and uncertainty as to how such a thing can be. You ask yourself, which in itself is doubting, can he break it? And on the very next page you write, I shall have faith. Don't you see, my dear, that this is a contradiction? You cannot have one eye on doubt and the other eye on faith. You have to close both your eyes and have full truth and trust all or none at all. There is no compromise. You cannot cover even an atom of doubt with however thick a layer of trust you might spread on it. Your trust, yes, you trust and never give it another thought, or you don't. It's so simple and as difficult as that. There are no categories to faith, no conditions. He tells us that he never breaks a promise. It's only a lack of our own understanding of it that makes us think so. He says, my glory is from here to eternity. Let me see how far you can see my glory. He knows his own business and he knows ours. We see nothing beyond our little noses. We focus on the little wish we might want him to fulfill and miss the stream of blessings that flow from him. Look at the number of promises that he did not make to you and yet granted at every step while you were abroad, guiding you over every hurdle that loomed up, hearing every prayer that your heart asked, but he did not promise. You say you don't understand. That is just what you think should not do. He says, I can never be understood. Just love me. And if in gaining an iota of understanding, we have an atom of love, what a great loss is ours. So count your blessings and lay your little promise at his feet. He will keep it exactly on which day or month or year is for him to decide who knows best and what has been seen to your best first to last. Let him worry about it, his part of it. Let us only worry about our own part. As Baba lovers and see what we never fail. When we must ask for something from him, then let it only be for love, and nothing else is worth our receiving from him, who holds us so close to him. Mani.
Wow.
Beautiful.
Can I read As Only God Can Love, the ending? I know Hugh read some of that, but
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
the ending is so beautiful. I actually just read this yesterday in the local Seattle Baba meeting, but no matter how many times we read this, it still comes as fresh. I'll read the two paragraphs of this ending of the book. This is called He is Love. Meher Baba came like a thief in the night, as he used to say, to steal our hearts and then disappear from view. Baba did not come to satisfy our intellects with explanations or to satiate our hearts with feelings of love. He came to pierce our hearts with longing for divine love. And this longing propels us to seek the goal of creation, reality, truth, abiding love. One time during his last weeks of intense suffering, Baba communicated to Baukalchuri, one of the Mandali, serving as Baba's night watchman, quote, "When I release the arrow of my love, it will strike deep and wound the hearts of all. The wounds will make them have my darshan continuously. They will have that longing for me, and that is my real darshan." End quote.
If nobody has anything else, I have a Tagore poem I could read.
Oh, please.
Okay. I threw away my heart in the world. You took it up. I sought for joy and gathered sorrow. You gave me sorrow and I found joy. My heart was scattered in pieces. You picked them up in your hand and strung them in a thread of love. You let me wander from door to show me at last how near you are. Your love plunged me into deep trouble. When I raised my head, I found I was at your door.
Okay.
Song of the Wind. Listen to the wind song, song of the wind, song of the wind. Listen to the wind song, song of the wind, song of the wind. Let the song of the wind ever remind you of my love. Let its soul healing balm sigh through your being, wherever it is, wherever you are, and know that I have loved you as only God can love, and be sure that I will love you thus throughout eternity. Let the song of the wind ever remind you of my love. Let its soul healing balm sigh through your being, wherever you are, and know, beloved, that you are mine forever, that I've called you from the realm of illusion to caress you with love, love divine. Listen to the wind song, song of the wind, song of the wind. Listen to the wind song, song of the wind, song of the wind. Listen to the wind song, song of the wind, song of the wind.
Jay
Hey,
Baba.
Mom.
Beautiful.
Was it audible?
Oh, beautiful. Beautiful. Perfect. I think now's a good time for a moment of silence. Jay Baba.
Now, my as I say, my computer is completely messed up. I raised up my hand, and now it just came up. You know, so I'm out of sync. So anyway, you all pretty much know the routine. Angela will choose somebody. I don't see anybody new here on this, you know, and but then you can choose, you can read or you can pass, and each person reads a section. Now, I'm going to just say a few words. You might find it kind of interesting. You know, a buddy of mine and I found ourselves living up there in Schenectady back in 1970. That's the whole story in itself. But that's where I first heard Darwin say these words, where he said, don't think of yourself so much as a base of operations. Think of yourself as a conduit, as a vehicle. Now I was young, and that's kind of pretty much of a new concept. What does it mean to be a vehicle? And, you know, basically saying that the personality self, most people regard as a base of operations. So, you know, I'm in charge of this personality, that person is in charge of theirs, and each one is a base of operations. And here Darwin is saying, think of yourself more as a conduit. So I used to ask him from time to time what he meant by a conduit or a vehicle, and I used to ask him that and try to figure out, not just intellectually, I knew what he was saying, but where is he coming from? And I discovered, you know, eventually that these aren't just words coming out of him, they were coming from another place, meaning he was a vehicle telling me about being a vehicle. That was coming from the deeper place in him, become a conduit. So anyway, this is what I gathered from, you know, from Darwin, but also Dr. Harry Kenmore, who was one of the Mondali, and also Erich. Now, so this might seem a little odd, but it might be of help. But Dr. Kenmore said that the mind, I can't even see my hands because the mind is actually outside of our body with its thoughts and its imagination and its memories. It's outside, and it uses the brain as its vehicle. People think thoughts come from the brain, but they actually come from outside. And Darwin would say all the feelings and desires and emotions are outside of us in this kind of sanskaric bubble, and they use the heart center as the vehicle. So this is going on, and what happened? One of the things that Darwin said is that Baba's love is not only outside of our bubble of sanskars, our accumulated sanskars, also inside. And so when love goes through the mind and its thoughts and imaginings and memory, those thoughts become illumined. Those thoughts become inspired. That imagination becomes creative at a much higher level than if the sanskars are activating the mind and the memories and the imagination. I don't know if that makes sense. When love comes through there, it illumines the mind. And also about feelings and emotions, when Baba's love, which is everywhere, goes through the emotions and feelings, those become the divine qualities, the divinely human qualities of empathy, compassion, forgiveness, you know, humor, generosity, patience, courage, all of those. So those emotions, rather than just being our ordinary sanskaric emotions and feelings, are elevated to a whole different level when love passes through. And as far as desires, when love goes through the desire, it purifies the desire nature, and it is converted into spiritual longing. It becomes it awakens a quest for the divine. So this the rather than just ordinary desire is elevated. Even the world of ideals of lofty ideals is awakened when love strikes, when it passes through the desire nature. I don't know if that makes sense, but what Darwin was concerned about is being a channel or a vehicle for Baba's love coming through, hoping that it'll go through us without running into too many impediments on its way through us. But that's the paradigm. But that was a very unusual concept for me as a young person. What does it mean to be a vehicle, you know? And so there's Mother Teresa said it in a very beautiful way, where she said, I am a little pencil in the hand of a writing God sending a love letter to the world. What a beautiful way of putting. I am a little pencil in the hand of a writing God sending a love letter to the world. So that encapsulates what Darwin was kind of conveying by that. So let's go on, and if Angela, if my audio is off at all, just let me know.
Your audio is perfect, so I know it's distracting to look at yourself, but if we just listen to you, we're perfect.
But the gestures are all out of sync, probably.
They're
right?
out of sync for us too, but it's fine.
I hope they can adjust. Yeah. Okay.
All right, page 34, opening the heart center. Let's see. So that's page 20 of the PDF. Anthony, care to read?
Sure. Okay. Opening the heart center. Oh, this went off the page here. Meher Baba has said that the book he will give us to read is the book of the heart, which holds the key to the mystery of life. That is how important the heart is. So much of our work needs to be centered on freeing the heart from sanskaric impulses. We do this work through what I call the heart center, which is a feeling center connected to our subjective subconscious level, as opposed to the reasoning function of the intellect. It is through the heart center faculty that we can become aware of the spirit level of our being. Baba especially emphasized the importance of keeping the heart center open. This is where the spiritual path begins in a conscious way, because it is through the heart that we become conscious of sanskaras at the level of feelings and desires. And it is at this level that we can experience the fullness of divine love, beauty, freedom, and bliss, coupled with self-effacement, which is the letting go of the idea of a separate self. Baba says, quote, the ego is the affirmation of being separate from the other, while love is the affirmation of being one with the other. Hence, the ego can be dissolved only through real love, end quote. So we must learn how to keep the flow of love in our consciousness uncontaminated by the I. This involves purifying the heart and keeping love flowing through the heart center. As love flows through the purified heart, we radiate the divine qualities of truth, love, beauty, and purity itself. This is our goal. Letting love flow instead of thinking of selfish things helps to remove veils in our consciousness by dissolving the selfishness which is based on misconceptions and what Baba calls ignorance of the truth. It is not a matter of arbitrarily forcing the mind or the feelings along certain lines, but entails becoming subtle enough to be aware of how our selfish thoughts are formed from desires, where those desires come from, and what all of that leads to. As we work inwardly, we notice that our consciousness settles more at the subjective level and responses to the world flow from that level. I'm going to read that again. Flow there. As we work inwardly, we notice that our consciousness settles more at the subjective level, and our responses to the world flow from that level. Our values are more clearly defined. We see what sanskaric impulse is coming through and can make intelligent choices as to how to counteract it. Our real work then is not developing some intellectual practice leading to special knowledge, but learning how to keep the heart center open, which means rising above the level of sanskaric impulses and letting love flow freely.
Anything to say to that? Any responses?
Alrighty. So the two things I was saying is, one is I find that very difficult if I'm working through something, keyword their I, because I'm not in my heart, I'm stuck in my such a nice person until they got really close with Bob. All of a sudden they started to feel like they were like, really regurgitating some of their stuff. I'm wondering, Jeff, who said, when they got with Baba, they thought they were doing pretty well, but then the longer they were with Baba and the closer they were getting with Baba, like all this stuff of their samskaras were regurgitating. Who was that? Was that Erich?
That all of them attested to that, but Erich especially.
Okay.
Used to talk about that.
Yeah, I'm experiencing that with my the I, so being in the heart and really concentrating on being in the heart and not getting caught in the in my samskaras has been quite.
We know that experience though. I think Mayor Prasad's got a great quote in response to that. Let's see.
Exactly. This is probably a very timely quote to what Kathy was saying. So it's a little bit long, about 2 paragraphs or 3. So, but I think it's very apt. So let me read this. The title of this is called Baba Stirring Things Up, and it's from Lord Maher, Volume 6. Love for a perfect master, however deep or devotional it may be, does not necessarily affect the original nature of a person, because despite apparent superficial changes, the individual nature remains the same up to the 7th plane. On the 7th plane, there is no individual mind, therefore no individual nature. This nature is so powerful that it continually tries to assert itself, and being inherently beyond one's control, even influences the expression of pure love by often assuming irritating and embarrassing forms. So, in order to keep the love of my disciples for me unalloyed, I have to humor less noble qualities of human nature, such as jealousy, pride, anger, etc. Otherwise, there is always the danger of these qualities gaining supremacy over love and changing it into a feeling of opposition, thus creating hindrances in my work. For instance, KJ Dastur and Herbert Davy now oppose me. There were differences and strife among the Westerners almost daily during the Nasik period, but this discord had its purpose. The avatar comes to sweep the world clean, to cleanse the human mind and purify the heart. Through his circle members, Baba was sweeping the world, collecting the refuse at one place in one being so that he could dispose of it. The forceful sweep of his hand at work would touch their innermost being, and the dirt of the world surfaced through their minds and in their weaknesses. There's a bit more, but
and there's the other image that Baba gave is you can be in a room that hasn't been swept or dusted in ages, and it seems everything is all right. You know, you were fine before you got into Baba, but then he began sweeping the house, the floors and everything, and all this dust gets kicked up. And that's a natural process that they all had to deal with, the Mandali.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, so the stuff that comes up in us, I assume is for us to clear away with his help, of course. But do you think that he uses us to help in the world at this point? To, like, is some of the stuff coming up for everyone to get cleared from that stuff through me or you? Or are we on our own and it was just the Mandali that he used that way?
I mean, what I've gathered is that, you know, we are, because of our sensitivity, we're picking up from the collective things that don't come from us. But Darwin told me one time, though, he was with Baba in, I think, 1956, and he had the thought, he was busy kind of being escorting people around, and Baba was giving interviews, so he's working very hard at an internal level. And he had the thought, this is interesting, there was a gathering and he had the thought, Baba's using my energy. And immediately Baba stopped the meeting and cleared everybody out. That was the end. And basically what the idea that Darwin got from that is, it might be happening, but don't think about it. Baba may be using your energy, but I mean, like that thought that he had ended that session for everybody. And that way, I mean, this is what he felt, and Baba proved the point. You may be doing work in the world, and you may be processing more than your own junk, but don't think too much about it. That was what I got from Darwin's remark. I don't know. Do you remember that, Bill? That scene?
I don't remember that, but I remember Darwin not liking to go into shopping centers because he was sort of collect things there, on material nature. And also in one of the discourses, Baba talks about using his disciples as brooms to sweep the refuse of the world, and that they have to go back to him to be renewed and clean and get a fresh stone. I don't remember what discourse that is, but that's, you know, I think it's the more we don't think about that, it could even the master using his disciples as brooms to sweep the world. And I was saying, like Darwin said, it's probably good not to think about that, just to go, you know, follow our inner promptings. And if Baba wants to use, it's fine. And if not, that's fine too.
Yeah. Okay, well now we've raised up some dust here.
Yeah, now we're getting some hands up. Rita, go ahead.
Hey, mine's more of a question about the subjective and the subconscious level being connected to the feeling center, the heart center, and that we can become aware of the spirit level through that. And I've been sort of in my praying to open up my heart center. It's been coming up, you know, to open up my subconscious to Baba. And I think I might be playing with fire. I don't know, but I'm not sure I understand how the subconscious level is connected to the spirit level. If somebody could just elaborate on that, clear it up for me. Thank you.
We'll keep that on the table, but I had the same thing. He makes a leap from the heart center to the subconscious without letting you know how that happens. But we'll keep that on the plate here, Rita, and we got a couple more hands.
Yes, mine's a question too. I mean, when you were talking, Jeff, originally, I mean, I see how what you said really pertains to this section, but when you were talking originally, you said the bubble of our sanskaras around us. I thought that's what you said, and
Yeah.
maybe I'm wrong, but I just would really appreciate your expanding a little bit more on that image of our sanskaras, because I've always felt like I was pulling sanskaras out of the depths of me somewhere, and that they weren't like a bubble around me and around my head. And that kind of is a helpful image, if you could say more about it.
Yeah, I found it very helpful, because you, rather than looking for the brain to your head to try to deal with thoughts, think of them as coming from outside and using your brain as a vehicle. But the pictures that they have of saints, they have that, that light around them. That's the illumined mind. It extends out. But I think that I just found it helpful from Darwin to think of feelings and emotions and desires as coming through you, rather than coming from you. Rather than coming from the body, they're coming from the other dimension in. And that kind of links up with Rita, because at the deeper part of the heart center, we get access to the subconscious realm. We also get access to the divine love, Baba's love that's there. So that, but it's receiving it as it passes through. The love is not coming from us. It's coming from the other dimension into us. So the ownership, we don't get to claim the ownership of it.
The sanskaras are ours individually, or they're both ours and they're the ones around us that resonate with us.
That can happen. Even Baba talks about mass psychosis, where your little bubble starts to bump up against a huge, massive bubble. He talked about that about Germany before the war. You get this mass psychosis where people are kind of getting their bubble is getting influenced by all the other bubbles that are like-minded. So it's important to have your own integrity to know what's your stuff and what's other people's stuff, so to speak. I don't know if that.
Do you have a way of doing that, Jeff, of knowing that separate differentiation?
Well, I kind of know what my stuff feels like. And if I go into an area where there are drugs being used, say, I pick it up, it gets picked up on my radar, and I'm saying that this is not happening. And I look around to see if there's a place where drugs might be being used, and it might be a particular house. So, so that I can tell the difference, between my set of sanskaras and the collective sanskaras. But that takes, just practice and awareness. But it does keep it a little cleaner, rather than just having a whole confusion. And I don't know what's mine and what's happening or whatever. You get a little more control. I mean, I don't know if this gets kind of esoteric, but I find it valuable. And this is the kind of thing that Darwin talked about, like going into a mall, you're picking up a lot of things. I mean, not that it's anything wrong with going into a mall, but it does fill your consciousness with a lot of static if you're not careful.
Yeah, I know. It was really interesting, Jeff, when you said that Darwin thought in a room that Baba was everything stopped. And I was just thinking that, over the years in position of the work I did in helping people, I would try to ask Baba for help, and it never really got right where I felt it was balanced until for some reason, Baba seemed to be firm with me and said to be natural and spontaneous and relax. And I really tried. I didn't understand it until one day it just happened. And I just wanted to share that because I think that's what Baba, works best with us if we're natural and spontaneous in our own way. You're not worry so much about if Baba's working through us or not. He does anyway. You don't have to worry about it. But that was important to me. That's not easy to do either. And and then with the sense scars, you can sense over time, I guess, with Baba, not only have an idea what your sense scar needs are, I guess you would call it, but how to let them go and let Baba, take them. And I'm trying to deal with that now, and that's another level of. And last time Anthony was talking about Michael Singer and the process of stepping back. I'm not going to say it the way you would, Anthony, but I'm trying to remember stepping back away from the intensity of reactivity with an emotion, which, there comes that sense scars again, and to step back and not react, but to be with it for a while. And that helps. And the other thing I was going to say was that there's something special about being in the silence with Baba. And I think you could try to do that while being really active. And it's not that you're not listening or not being in the moment with other people, but somehow it takes over, and then you can kind of relax into being with Baba. So thank you. I like to share about this because it helps me.
No, to be relaxed at the innermost level is another way of
I'm not relaxed. I'm an intense person. I'm not really relaxed. And so, but I've noticed that sometimes I appear intense, but I'm really relaxed, and I appear intense because there is a flow going on, a love flow. And it looks like it's intense, but it's not my personality. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly.
I've noticed that recently. So
yeah, you can. You can be very quiet inwardly and very enthusiastic or intense externally. Beautiful. Right.
So I guess I have the same feeling of being perplexed by this bringing up of the sanskaras and how we recognize them and all of that several people said. And I was trying to put my finger on what it was exactly in terms of the question I'm trying to ask that I can't put my finger on. And I think it comes closest to dealing with the lines that say, where is it? We see what sanskaric impulse is coming through and can make intelligent choices as to counteract it. But he's saying you do this by keeping the heart open and rising above those impulses and letting the love flow freely. But before that, he talks about it's not a matter of arbitrarily forcing the mind or the feelings along certain lines, but entails becoming subtle enough to be aware of how our selfish thoughts, I guess that means separation thoughts, are formed from desires, where those desires come from, and what all of it leads to. And this has to do with noticing inwardly settling at a subjective level and knowing that our responses to the world flow from that level. And then our values are more clearly designed. We see what sanskaric impulse is coming through and can make intelligent choices as to how to counteract it. So I don't do that naturally. And I don't see that I do that easily. Maybe it does have to do what Anthony said last time, the creating the space in your heart so that there is not the reaction. You step back, you step into the silence, you take time, you back off your immediate response and somehow feel it through, think it through, whatever we do to see if there's something else. But if anyone is able to do this and has done it, I'd really like to see what they're doing and how they're doing it. To elucidate that more, because really when you say that, I just think, how in the world can I see a sanskaric impulse? I'm not that smart.
No, I mean, that's what when Darwin would come out with this stuff, way back when I was young, I mean, a lot of this, I didn't know what he was talking about. It had to get filled out. I had to get in there and actually see a little bit of the inner dynamics, but Baba is working on that. I mean, to create that inner space so that there's a little more choice. We don't just go with the first truckload of sanskars that go by. We can wait for a truckload of flowers from the florist to come by. Yeah. Okay, more hands.
Robin?
When Heidi was talking, I'm remembering when I was working with women and listening to them, and their problems were so overwhelming. I think I've said this before, but they just there's no way for them to survive, it seemed like. And I would start to get, anxious and think, oh my God, I don't know what to say. I should come up with something here. And I would remember Baba and just get really quiet and still myself inside. And they would just, and it felt uncomfortable in a way because I felt on the spot to come up with something, And, but what would happen is if I really got quiet like that, I would watch them just come up with a solution that I never could have come up with. I didn't know enough about them or, but they'd have either a family member, somehow they would come up with something, as long as I would kind of get into the holding sacred space for them rather than getting into it and trying to do something with it. And it feels like sort of what Elizabeth was saying. I mean, it feels like if I can't very often come up with the specific subconscious or sanskaric issue and bring it up and work with it clearly for what it is. But when it seems like those issues are being churned up or whatever, if I can go and just be completely in the present moment and stop trying, to figure it all out or have it clear and just be in that space. It's like Baba, it feels like Baba comes in, like the veil gets lifted or whatever, and Baba is there doing it. And there's nothing for me to do except enjoy and relish sort of the moments that I can remember to get myself into that space. I don't always think, well, okay, so I figured that out or that got resolved. It just feels like the more time I can spend in that space where Baba takes over and is within me and around me and everywhere, and there's nowhere to go and nothing to do but just be in that state, that seems to help more than anything else. I can't do it all the time, but the more I do it, the better it gets. Thanks.
Yeah, beautiful. No, that's so true. And that's invaluable way to deal with, to handle these situations with Baba.
maybe it works now without the picture. One of the things is like, Heidi, I really like your idea. I have not done it that way. But I learned in school and working with people, is like the present moment is really important. And then if you're charged about something, what I do is I sit and it's like, what am I really charged about? And then one of the really interesting things to do is ask, what age am I right now? Because most of our charges come from very, very early, and that's what's in our subconscious. And so, and I found that helpful. And can I always do it? No. But I would just like to share that. It's and I can't take credit for that. That's a Dr. Peter Levine from Somatic Experiencing.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful.
Oh,
I'm going to try that.
So in the question of how do we figure out what our sanskaric impulses are, for me, I think it's if I'm triggered or if any of my character defects or challenges are up, if I feel jealousy or anything, right? Anger. But so I'm thinking about, the heart center. I know that the Native Americans, there's something I read about one Native American group said, it's like 5 miles between the head. And I think really connecting the heart to, I think through consciousness, right? And for me, also asking Baba to move my ego aside and to come through my voice through. And sometimes and to ask that more, particularly when working with clients or working with other people. But I think what I'm getting from this is to really focus, and we talked before on seeing through the heart, but I think really in that time, if I don't have the time to go process it and I'm with somebody, to really ask Baba to come through and to come through my heart and to focus on my heart. That's what's coming to me about this. And of course, all of this takes practice, right? It's just like remembering, forgetting, and keep. But this is really good. I'm appreciating the discussion, and I also appreciated what you said, Robin, about just being in that space with Baba, and then things. I've seen that when I asked Baba to come through, just amazing things happen. It's like, move me aside, Baba, and let whatever's supposed to happen here come through from you. And it just provides that space of acceptance of whatever it is. And then some really beautiful things happen. So it's good to be reminded. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. All this is so helpful.
In the chapter before the one we're in Effort&Grace, chapter 5, dissolving our veils. Darwin has some interesting things that on this particular subject of sanskara. He says, when we become true seekers and put our inner focus on the master within, we become increasingly aware of all the veils in the form of sanskaric thought patterns that darken our awareness of reality. Then a little later he says, dispelling veils involves altering our thinking and feeling in favor of truth. This is a part of taking our stand upon the truth, as Baba advocates. If we are unsure as to how to get underway in dispelling veils, we can follow the simple criterion Baba has given us to work from. It goes something like this: do anything that you would not do, that you not mind doing in front of Baba. Say anything you would not mind saying in front of Baba, and think anything that you would not mind thinking in front of Baba.
Yeah, very That comes right from Baba and is very helpful. It's hard. Thoughts are a little harder to manage than feelings and actions, for sure. Baba said you can't control your thoughts. You can control your emotions, I think partially, but oh heck. But you can control your actions. He kind of unfolds it that way.
Right. And Marcia.
I was going along really fine the other day and something came in that started to the trigger for me to be worrying. So I opened up this book and it said, before you go to bed, this is Rick Chapman's book, You and I. Before you go to bed, say, Baba, I entrust all that I did, thought, or spoke, good and bad, to you. When you get up, say, Baba, I now begin entrusting all thoughts, words, and deeds to you. Say this just twice each day for 5 minutes, but with your whole heart in it. Do that and make me responsible for all you do or think. Then you are free, but you must do it honestly. This much will be more than sufficient to maintain contact with me. So I got up this morning feeling, the effects of what Jeff said is there's sanskaras when you wake up. And I went outside and I starting to think about this and that. And I just kept trying to remember that first prayer about entrusting everything to Baba. And then when thoughts came in that I didn't want, I just took his name. And then pretty soon I forgot about all that. And I said, oh, I'm back on the Baba path, So it's kind of like, but then you think you're just thinking about Baba every minute. It's kind of like he is acting right through you, But I like the idea of what you said about I hadn't thought about things coming from outside. I used to think things came from the outside. Then I started thinking everything is inside. So I guess it's all inside and outside. Crazy.
Yeah, it's hard to, the English language can't quite cover it.
No.
Now, the one thing, Rita, did we answer your question coming back?
Yes, I believe so. Thank you.
Oh, good, good. So let's go on.
God's purity. During Mayor Baba's last moments while in America in 1958, he communicated to us, I am in you all, but I only can enter your heart when you have driven out everything else. He added, I am God. I am in you all, but I feel shy. I do not enter your heart if I find there the slightest impurity. He was not conveying the idea that we had to go from being bad to being good, but instead that our minds had to be cleansed of impurities, which means thoughts and desires. Purity of heart means God's purity. Once we have love and inner freedom, purity of heart follows as a byproduct. So we do not focus on purity per se. That could easily lead to egoism.
Yeah, that brings up another conundrum for me, because many times he says he's always in our heart, waiting to be awakened. And now he's saying, I'm only there when you've driven everything else out. And you've already achieved the awakening, in a sense.
The way Erich has described that is, of course, he's in everybody's heart. But if we have all these veils of thought and emotion and feeling, even though he's right there, it seems like he's not there. So by cleansing, by getting rid of those veils, it seems like he's actually entering your heart, but he's been there all along. It's another situation where the English language has a hard time conveying that he is there, and so he can't go anywhere, but you get the illusion that he's come to you, coming into you. But really, we're going into him. It's the other way around, actually.
So the lines, purity of heart means God's purity. Once we have love and inner freedom, purity of heart follows as a byproduct. So we do not focus on purity per se. That could easily lead to egoism. And for me, this reminds me of historical times. I mean, times now, but also, for example, during the time in England where you had the battles between the Catholics and the Anglicans, and in the times where we had Puritans, and so much was done by people thinking they were doing good things, and yet there was no love there. And I think that applies to our times as well. We think human beings, I'm talking about society as such, not individuals, that we might be doing the right thing and we get it wrong. Anyway, so I think a lot of that is going on now as well. And I think many people in our current time, with all this confusion and lack of understanding among people, I think a lot comes from these kind of misunderstandings of right and wrong, and the way, and just a lot of misconceptions. I just wanted to comment on that. That's all.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Darwin is talking about making a role out of purity. When you make a role out of purity, then you've gone the wrong way with it. I'm more pure than you are.
But it's interesting that sentence, he says, I do not enter your heart if I find there the slightest impurity. He was not conveying the idea that we have to go from being bad to being good, but instead that our minds had to be cleansed of impurities, which means thoughts and desires. So that's kind of saying to me that, let's say you're a really bad person, but your thoughts and desires are not impure. I don't really know how those two jive. I mean, they sound like contradictions.
We better put that on the back burner for now. We'll see if that gets answered in the course of this book.
Okay, I'd love it if somebody knows about that one too. There are a lot of things that don't make sense in our way of thinking anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Stuart.
Yeah, about Ryan's conundrums there. They're great conundrums. And, at the same time that Baba says to work on cleansing our veils, thoughts, desires, so on, and he's shy of coming into our heart if we have the impurities. At the same time, he says to us, I'm paraphrasing, but you all have an infinite pool of my love in you. And he says, when you fall in your weakness, and not if you fall, but when, knowing we're going to do it, just cleanse yourself again and again. You can never make dirty that pool of love in you. So there's that, and what Marcia brought up just now about the two kind of mantras, in a sense, the morning and the evening. I love those, and even when I wake up at night having to go to the bathroom, I'll work at trying to repeat the evening one again. And I find if I can do it well, I usually get into this peaceful, expansive sleep again. And it really makes a difference. And, you know, Mayor Bob, I now entrust you every thought, word, and deed, good and bad. It covers everything. You know, so I feel like he knowingly maybe creates this seeming conundrum, you know, but there's the forgiveness and the cleansing in him at the same time.
Yeah, beautiful, Stu.
Yeah, beautiful. And Cindy.
I just had a glimmer about that. Reading that paragraph about thoughts and desires didn't feel very helpful to me because I don't know when I have never had thoughts and desires. I mean, other than being unconscious or in the deepest meditative state that happens once every blue moon, and I'm grateful for. And I was thinking that what would be impure is when I hold on to it as right and mine, where it's not just held lightly and flowing through. It's like, no, I'm right. This is wrong. And this should happen. And this shouldn't have happened. And I have to have this to be happy. That, I think, then it gets stuck and it gloms up the works and it doesn't flow. And those things, then going back to the reading before, it's like my pride will tell me that that was wrong, or my ego getting involved in something and measuring as superior, inferior, should, better. And that is when I then lose my connection to that divine voice that flows through me that says, all is well, we're one, love is okay, you're very loved, you always have been, everyone is. But when I get stuck in the mine and this is right, then I know I can't feel Baba, even though he's there.
Good, yeah. It's like there's a conveyor belt that's going through. It would be nice if you could just let it go by, but you start picking off things, you know, and I'll take this, and then before you know it, you're jammed up and things aren't flowing. Yeah, we got, oh, look at all the hands here.
Yeah, now we're cooking. And Laurice.
So this impurity topic brought to mind Adi's prayer that was shared with me, and I wanted just to read it, Adi Keirani's prayer. Beloved Meher Baba, bless us all, so that in the stress and strain of our daily life, fluctuations of our mind, we learn to relax wholly and wholeheartedly and float on the ocean of your love and call for your breath of joy, your breeze of compassion, and your wind of strength to flow into every fiber of our body, every corner of our mind, and every space of our heart, to cleanse us all of all our impurity, and to make us worthy of your love, of your obedience, of your service, and above all, your pleasure. Jai Baba.
Just beautiful.
First of all, I just want to say thank you, Laurice. That was so beautiful. And I love this group so much. It can't be said enough how the sharing of our heart and then these truths, these ancient truths are, it's like it's flowing through me. Like the whole session is flowing through me. And I wanted to just, I had one thought. I was going to tell a story, but I'm going to skip that. But I had a thought because this level, the discussion's on such a high level. But I had this thought about the subconscious, indeed. I always think sub like it's down inside me, deep down inside me. And actually, the thought of it being out there, I never thought of that before, ever. But I do know that when I write a song, I'm reaching out there. What am I reaching out there for, you know? And that's the same idea of getting from the subconscious. So then I I thought it's like I'm the mini and that's the maxi, but they're direct reflections of each other. So there's this incredible consciousness, subconsciousness, sanskaras, divine love. It's all out there. It's also in me, though. At this moment, I experience it as much smaller. But I feel it as a reflection. But it's the exact same thing. So I can go in or I can go out. So that was an incredibly helpful reframing for me. So thanks.
And Ray, go ahead.
Hi. About knowing with these thoughts, who knows how to decipher all of this, where the purity is and the sanskaras. And I'm trying to be a good boy. I'm trying to, mend my ways. And I love Baba. But when something happens, I say, wait a minute. And as soon as I realize that, I say to Baba, I say, well, you said that you wanted the garbage. Here's my gift to you. And I just give it to him. And that's the only thing I can say is that that's the only thing that I know I can do about, as we clean ourselves up. One day we'll clean out the last speck and we'll go, oh, that's it. That's what I had to do. But until you clean off everything, you don't know what the heck you got to do. All you know is that Baba says, when it happens, give me that. And then I'll fix it for you. But just keep on doing it. So that's the only thing that I can, that's what I do. Thank you.
Beautiful. That's been my method too.
Yeah.
Plenty of garbage to go around.
Reading that section exactly reminded me of a story that Erich once told about a little girl who posed a question to him, asking, Erich, if God is everywhere, why can't we see him? And he answered in a way that kind of clarified it. The whole gist of that answer was around that purity of your heart, if there's no desires and thoughts remaining. I mean, we all know that Baba is within us, and yet the mind keeps questioning, if Baba is within us, why do we have to keep cleaning? I mean, the mind itself keeps beating ourselves and conflicting ourselves to keep posing that same question, right? If Baba is within us, why do I have to keep working on myself to remove all these impurities? And those desires and thoughts are also coming through all these incarnations and the sanskaras and all of that stuff. But this is a very beautiful story that I remembered that kind of just clicks right where this section kind of brings in. If you're interested, I can read out this little blurb.
Do so, yeah. Go
So
right
this
ahead.
little girl, she asks, Erich, if God is everywhere, why can't we see him? So Erich is a little bit confused on how to answer this little girl. And he wonders, what should I tell her now? And she was very serious. He couldn't just say something lightly that, because she really wanted to know. So Erich kind of says, it is because he's infinitely compassionate. And then she asks, what do you mean? How can you say he's compassionate when I want to see Baba and I don't see him? And so Erich replies saying, yes, that is true. But do you really want to see him? When you really want to see him, you will. But until then, it would be an intrusion on his part. And because he is compassionate, he does not want to intrude on your privacy. Oh, yes, I want to see him more than anything else in the world, she replied. How would it be an intrusion? Well, just think, Erich said. Think about all those times when perhaps you're doing something you really should not be doing. Let us say your parents have some toffees. Do you like toffee? And she said yes. So Erich said, what if your parents had some in a jar and you are tempted to take one? What do? Do you take one when your parents are in the room? She said, oh no, she said, I wait until no one is around, when no one can see me, and then I take one. And what, Iraj asked, if just at that moment Baba were to appear? What then? How would you feel? I would feel embarrassed, she said. That is what I mean, Iraj replied. You would feel uncomfortable. It would be an intrusion on Baba's part to interfere with your privacy at that moment. And throughout the day, we are doing things and thinking things which we really would not feel comfortable doing in Baba's presence. I may be sitting here thinking how nice it would be to see Baba. I may be longing to see him, but the very next moment, some unworthy thought passes through my mind. And if Baba were to appear just then, I would feel very embarrassed. So, out of compassion, Baba restrains himself. Actually, he's most anxious to reveal himself. He's more anxious to let you see him than you are to see him. But he restrains himself out of compassion for you and for all of us because he knows we do not really want to see him. Or rather, we want to see him, but only for a moment or two. We do not want to have him before us each moment. So until we are ready to really want his company, until we want to see him more than we want to snitch that toffee or indulge some unworthy thought, until then, in his infinite compassion, he withholds from us that sight.
Beautiful, Shraddha. Beautiful. Lovely. Mm.
What a great story.
Yeah, and so geared to a young child.
And aren't we all young children?
Yeah. Yeah, Knight and the Damsel, that's pretty good.
Page 36.
The Knight and the Damsel. It is wonderful to discover that we have a great reservoir of love within us that can pour forth once we learn how to open the heart center. Many of us around Mayor Baba would be aware of the heart center opening and love beginning to flow. His love was like a siphon bringing forth our love for him. We could not help but love him. The result was that our perception was greatly intensified, and we would find ourselves at much deeper levels of consciousness. We would be able to discern values at inner levels more clearly than ever before. We found ourselves supported by new strength because new energies were released. And together with the energies and insight we found, we had more control over our thoughts and desires and feelings within. Our world became not something being imposed upon us, but something that we could control more and more. All this is a function of the heart, so it is very important to keep the heart open and soft. In fairy tales, the knight in shining armor defends, protects, and shields the fair damsel. This is an allegory about the mind and the heart. One's mind can be very helpful in defending the equanimity of one's heart center, which is closest to the spiritual realm and should be predominant. The knight, the mind, helps maintain the flow of love through the heart center, while at the same time providing an essential control on the sanskaric impulses that may try to come through. What we are seeking is peace of mind, which is really peace of heart. This means more harmony, upliftment, more light within, deeper and deeper values. We must ask ourselves what we value the most. If we value peace of mind, peace of heart, we will make the effort to defend the heart, through which we are capable of seeing God. Eventually, we experience a high degree of integration of the heart and mind. Then, as Baba has said, the false self becomes the lover of the true self.
Adi Kayarani used to give this metaphor for the relationship of the heart and the mind. He would say that the heart is like the flow of water, and the mind are like the banks of the river. If you have the banks of the river but no heart, you just get an empty riverbed. But if you have heart, if you have the water and no banks, it becomes a swamp. So the heart and the mind, that's how he described how they work together. Certain amount of mind is needed to direct where the heart is to go. Eric used to give a figure where the masculine side of ourself is like the night. Well, it's like to get to the threshold of the beloved. But then you need a woman's heart to embrace the beloved when you get there. Okay.
Cindy, go ahead.
I think that I came in on this chapter when I did Effort and Grace the first time via Zoom last year.
Yeah.
And I remember it, and I'm feeling now that like what you just said about the masculine and the feminine principle are active and receptive. And I was saying to my mind, you got to step it up a little, protecting the heart. I think that you're falling down on the job and you're actually doing the opposite, feeding things in that would hurt the flow of the heart. And then I think about that as the highly wounded masculine or active energy that runs amok and thinks it needs to force and find and all of that, rather than being like in reverence for the emperor, the heart, the empress, the heart energy. So I'm just feeling that, as you know, even where we are now in the world, and whether it's called masculine and feminine or active and receptive, the value of that. And it also reminds me of St. Paul, when his letter to the Ephesians about women be submissive to your husbands and husbands love your wife as you would your own body. Well, I mean, that I left church so many times when that thing came out, until I was in Ephesus, and where Paul was doing that and understanding that he was jailed in a matriarchal society and he wanted to get out. But when I think about that, like not being submissive to the masculine energy, but just knowing that it can direct the love more within me. If my mind helps me direct into feeling more love rather than jealousy or pettiness or fear or selfishness or superiority, if I can then have faith in my mind to direct my heart just to flow from that dill, from the real heart, not just the caretaking wants. Anyhow, I'm just having a feeling about that masculine and feminine energy coming into balance and wholeness through this chapter, which I think is so needed.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jay Baba.
Beautiful. Yeah. Yeah, but one description that Baba gives of realization is when the masculine and feminine in us are both fully developed. That's another another description of what realization is.
I think that too, because like I used to say, like whatever God is, you know, the infinite eternal God doesn't have like reproductive genitalia, you know, it's like not that thing, but for like the purpose of creation separates itself, you know, into active and receptive. And then when those two merge, like with, and in that balance, not just in like the sexual act between, you know, the sexes, but when those two merge, you'd have that originating creative force again.
Yeah. Beautiful.
And when I was in Walnut Creek in the Sufi Center, that big statue they have of the evolutionary journey that goes up like 3 stories, at the top is the androgynous person. You know, it's neither male nor female. Just what you were just saying, Jeff.
Yeah, no, it's.
Yeah, there's a wonderful quote put up on Facebook early this morning, attributed to Baba, but it doesn't say where. But it's feelings at rest and thoughts at work is mind. Thoughts at rest and feelings at work is heart. Yeah, I made a comment a little bit ago that Baba's given us some incredible, seemingly really simple tools, like remembering this, you know, and the pool of cleansing love in us, and you know, and trusting thoughts, words, and deeds, and I wrote back to, I think, Ray saying it almost seems like they're too simple in a way, but it's a huge gift.
Yeah, one of the things that encapsulates it all is to be wholehearted about what you do in the present for Baba.
Yeah, just it's good to read that Darwin. We've heard it before, I guess, how Baba's presence would give them such a deep experience, because sometimes Darwin will say things and like you're scratching your head. What? I want to do that, and so it like it helps me at least to know that that was more or less the gift from Baba to him and to others to help us now by telling us what we can do. And the other thing was, I just looked up that quote that Stuart just read. I just Googled it, and it's on avatarmare.org. So the quote is Baba's. Thank you.
Yeah, beautiful.
Nice. And Patty.
It just appears to me that everything I've appreciated today, the truthful, just the purity of heart and the offerings, and I just keep going back to grounding in the present moment is where Baba is. So everything is possible when we're centered in the present moment. And I think these simplicities are when we're present. I mean, and the mind will take us everywhere else, but the heart will be in the moment. And if we can just witness what's really happening in our moments, then that enables us to recognize the happening, and then the results or the shifting will happen, is what I keep reflecting on from what everything is offered today in the readings. And I really believe that he gives us the words, but it seems to be beyond words when we're in that moment, when we're in those moments where you're all of the experience, you're the participant, you're the play, you're the audience. That happening of energy, that oneness of being with everything that is, can only be, I think, in the presence of God. And I think that's how, the gift of Darwin and all his close ones who we've come in contact with through the writings or through in person have offered glimpses to what that is, that expanded, timeless, heartfelt, expansive creativity where all unity is.
In the present.
Yeah, in the presence of him. And that is only in the presence, is what I feel. Yeah. So thank you, everybody. What a great session.
I once said to Merwan Jesawala, Erich's brother, who was one of the intimate Mandalay, the last one to go. But I quoted, is this in Mandalay Hall? I quoted Baba, live more and more in the present, which is ever beautiful and stretches away beyond the limits of the past and the future. And I said, what does that mean to you, Merwan? And he said, you will only find Baba in the present. He said, people spend so much time thinking about the past and the future and they let him slip away right in front of him, right in front of them. It was kind of, he made a gesture like precious water kind of being spilled on desert sand, you know. And so, you know, that, you know, always try to get back, you know, what that it kind of impresses on me, get back to the present when I find myself in the future or the past. Get back to the present where Baba is. He didn't say that critically, you know, he just said it as a fact, very factually.
Seems like now's a good time to have a moment of silence.
Okay, yeah, let's have a few moments of silence, folks. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
Now, after a while, Stu would be happy to lead us in the heart-centered meditation, which is something quite beautiful to experience. But anything that comes up or anything to share? Oh, Elizabeth, yeah.
Well, Peter wrote something in the chat which I didn't understand, and I just wanted him to explain it.
All right, how's that? What part? Because I had deeply contemplated what I put in the chat for certain reasons. What part was it that you not attempting to be snarky with you, just getting clarity? What is it that you're asking?
I reacted to it as harsh, and I couldn't understand what it meant. So I figured I didn't understand what you were trying to say. So I thought I'd just ask and say, forgive me if I'm misinterpreting anything, but I wanted to understand what you were saying, and I couldn't.
All right, I'll see if I can wrap my mind around this. I'm just woke up and getting in like a snarky mood. As Bob would do the talking for me, because I can't do this. When I years ago wondering does God love me or not? Bottom line, no shucking, no jiving. Does God freaking love me or not? Because I don't feel it. I don't see it. And then I come to his discourse and I saw it says, when Stuart brought up the I love you, and another Bible lover had showed me that, I'm like, oh, really? Okay, so that's like a factual statement. God loves me. So then why don't I feel it? Why am I not experiencing it? And when I went through more discourses, like I have it on this little card here that I'll put in the chat, this little card that I wrote and typed everything on and laminated. It says, the more you think of me, the more you will realize my love for you, which made, when I think about that, it says, okay, number one, it's thinking of him. Then it says, the more I do that, the more I will realize, meaning I'll manifest the feeling of his love, the more I think of him. So it means that I can't just feel it, I have to do stuff. And it was very disheartening to me because I said, okay, so I can't just feel it, I have to work at it. I have to do a lot of work. And also when, years ago when, back in the 90s, there was a Discord that says real happiness lies. I was in my friend's bedroom and my heart lit up. I said, oh, maybe I'll finally understand how I can be happy. And it says real happiness lies in making others happy. My heart went right down again. I said, well, that ain't going to work for any time soon. So I'm kind of screwed. So anyway, I start taking his discourses and really analyzing them to see what the truth was, according to him. Anyway, maybe I should mute, but thank you for the question. I appreciate your asking.
Well, the one thing is that on an overcast day, we say the sun isn't out, but it's there. But it may be that our sanskars for a particular period of our time, particular period of our life, the clouds are so thick that the sun is having a hard time to get through. But it doesn't, the sun is always there ready to shine through. And eventually something opens up. There's a patch of the clouds kind of separate, the clouds of sanskars, and that love flows in. That sunlight flows in. But it's only a matter of time. It's only a matter of time before the fog lifts.
Well,
and yeah. And
well,
any
Jeff,
effort, yeah, go ahead.
Well, Jeff, the caveat to that, the struggle I have is that, I mean, how do I say this? I just had in my mind when the thoughts are so dark that you can't see straight and you wonder, can I put myself in a grave and get away with it? Because I don't know if God loves me. I don't feel his love and I feel freaking miserable because to me, the moment is miserable. It's not fun. It's not light. It's not happy. Yeah. I think of a future goal. That's what makes me joyful. So, I mean, it's not one day, it's more like a lifetime or many decades strung together of dark clouds. And, I can explain it and say, well, it's all past sanskaras. It just means, okay, I'm going to have to choose to be above ground and just wait it out. Then I go back to Winston Churchill's phrase, which is, when in hell, keep going. All right, well, it's not like I'm in ultimate hell, but okay, it's not that bad, but let me just pass. All right.
Peter, can I say something? What I said before about, we all get this junk coming up, and a lot of us here talk a little bit sophisticated about, and it's not sophisticated isn't the word, we esoterically, but at the same time, I got a lot of junk in me that I hide. But when it comes up, I just do what I said to everybody. You were here. You probably heard. I think I just say, Baba, look at another piece of junk. I can't believe it. This is yours. And like Jeff said in that story about the cafeteria, then the plate comes up and you look. Wait a minute, I just gave this to him. No, there's more. There's more. We've had a lot of lives where we had good lives, we had bad lives, and some lives we were son of a bitches. And some lives we were really saintly, and we go back and forth doing less and less. This is my interpretation. And now in this life, we're getting the results of our thoughts in last life. And when it comes up, Baba says, don't worry about it. Don't try and figure it out. Go to a psychiatrist. And I think that psychotherapy, I think it's great. I went myself, fantastic. But you're never going to get to the bottom of it. So Baba says, just give it to me. I'll take care of it. Don't worry about it, because you did a lot of good things. But now you're in a place where you're feeling angry. Just give it to me. So that's the only thing that we can do. You can do it right now. If you're feeling pissed at me, you say, Baba, look at this. And then it's for you. Then you look at the plate, it's there. I'm still pissed at Ray, and then do it again. That's my advice. That's what I do. I don't know what else to do. I know Baba loves me, and I can tell you, when I think about Baba, I love him. I love him so much, but I can't do anything about myself except give him my garbage. That's my 2 cents. Okay.
Yep.
Thanks,
yeah.
Ray.
Sure.
Beautiful, Ray.
Beautiful.
We've got Stu up there.
Yeah, I know we've repeated this story before, but the darshan where Baba was being laden with the flowers and everything, and he's saying, nobody's giving me what I want. Nobody's giving me what I want. And the mindless saying, what is it? What do you want? We'll get it for you. Nobody's giving me. I want your dirt. Give me your junk.
Yeah. Yeah, he said, I am the personification of perfection, but no one gives me what I want. And someone said, what do you want? Your imperfections. Give those to me. Yeah. I know, Peter, we've all gone through dark times, and then the sun breaks in through the clouds, and then it darkens again. it's yeah, it's a drag, but it does get better.
Can I say something?
Yeah,
here?
go ahead.
Yeah, I know that growing up in a much less than functional situation for many, many years drew me to a lot of darkness and all kinds of feelings around that. But one of the things I can say, Peter, is that, you know, sometimes our intention of how we're going to use those negative feelings as spiritual leverage is more important if we can't just let it go. We sometimes have to be with it to understand it and use it for leverage to go higher. So I just wanted to mention that, and Baba helps with that. It doesn't feel like that when it's happening, but if your intention is, and your intention obviously is, you're here and you share so deeply. So thank you.
Yeah.
I'm sorry if it offended and if it sounded over the top. I didn't know any other way to say it. I could just say, I don't know how to do this, Bob. You do the talking, and because I'm sure it's going to offend people, but I to me, it's a risk I have to take sometimes.
Yeah, no, you're being vulnerable is the light comes in through the vulnerability. That's what Rumi said.
Your
Okay.
honesty, yeah, your honesty is beautiful, Peter.
Yeah. Now,
Yes, and
Marcia.
I had those feelings this afternoon.
I agree.
I was just saying, I think Peter's reflecting what so many people are feeling right now, like on the planet, you know, and not to say like we said, like, don't think, oh, Bob is working through me, but to have our own personal, you know, stuff, and then to be sensitive energetically, and who knows what Bob is doing with us. It's a big time. And I felt so overwhelmed this afternoon by feelings of like dread. And I could go to my list of issues. I mean, who doesn't have a list of issues? And I was trying to be in the eternal now, not the fleeting now. I was trying to do it, blah, blah, blah. And I heard something that said about when you feel overwhelmed, it's because you've asked for more than you're letting in. And I said, okay, Baba, grace coming tonight with Effort and Grace. Bring the grace. And Baba has brought the grace, and there's still, it's not like a pretty package at the end. And that's why I love the sharing of experiences, and with Baba's energy, and then even the guided experience that Stuart's about to bring, to have the experience also of like letting that love be in us, guided. And so I'm very grateful that you did share, Peter, and it just felt like what I was thinking a few hours.
I just want to tell Peter that my heart breaks for you. I feel for you, your anguish. And I want to say, hold on to the diamond. There are people who love you. Do not let yourself sink in. I also heard you talking about thoughts and analysis, and not about feeling of the heart, which is what we just went through. So I'm wondering, maybe you can try to find ways of working with your heart. And I'm not anything. I'm not a counselor. I'm not anything like that. I'm just saying this from my gut. But I don't want you to feel that way anymore. So God bless you.
Yeah, Peter. We really feel for you. Like if you were here, I'd be giving you a hug right now. You know, we'd be together and we'd be just looking at each other. Human beings, we're screwed up human beings, but we've heard Baba's name. So that's what's the difference between me and someone who hasn't heard Baba's name. We're both screwed up. I've heard Baba's name. I don't know why, but now I have the chance to give my garbage to him. So, you know, I'd be giving you a hug right now.
Yeah.
Hold on, brother. And when this is over, you're in Florida, I think, right? I'm down here in Sebastian. We can meet halfway. and somewhere and then hug each other, please. Okay, brother? Love you, man.
Yeah. Thank you, Ray.
I'm just putting into a chat what I have programmed into my phone after talking with oh shoot. There's something I have these reminders programmed into my phone. What I'm just losing it. And all right, well, I think you can figure it out. It's what I have programmed into the phone as reminders, but they're just not working right now. It's what someone suggested to me. But the thing what had come to my mind, it's being that I'm so intellectual. Oh, it's somewhere, maybe people remember this. It was a story in Erich's book where, he talked about he's not a teacher, where somebody, and I could read it right from the book, where someone asked Erich, why don't you correct people's behavior? And Erich said that, why? It's like, I see Baba and everybody. It's like correcting Baba if I'd go and correct petty behavior. He says things if it's something serious, like if someone's doing drugs, and then he goes down to say, when we all know what to do and we don't do it, and then we finally get to a point where we see that we change, and it has to do with being intellectual about it. That we learn, it's not based on what anyone else said, but making an intellectual decision, and then the switch is flipped. And I'm just paraphrasing what Eric said. And he said it's like the 10 Commandments, that they're inward rules that we all have in our heart, but we don't follow them just because someone else said to do so, but because we made a decision on ourselves to do so. And he said it had to do with the mind, like we use our intelligence. So it's the only way I knew to do it, is to comb his discourses, to like figure it out. I've been through someone once told me that the only thing we need to do to recover is learn how to follow directions. So it takes the mind out of it. I said, that's a great idea. Great. I'm too intellectual about it. I'll do that. I'll just follow directions that I'm given. On the other hand, sometimes I had to use the mind to figure it out, because if I go and say, does Bob love me or not? If I don't use my mind and say, I got to figure this shit out, because all indication is that he doesn't. So what's the point? So I had to go and look into his discourses. Why haven't I chosen, why haven't I made final choices? Because I read through his discourse, and he talked about suicide. He said it's like a no-win situation. You want to go be cast all the way down to stone? If, like Eric says, that we are at the end, we're at the beginning of the parade procession, we're closer than anyone else to God realization. Take myself out. That'd be the stupidest thing I could ever do in this world. Because you know what? When I think about it, life is really not that bad. I just think it is. It's a perception that's always wrong. Perfect masters have said, we're human. It means we're always wrong. Well, in a way, that's a wonderful thing to know. And it also is, all right, I'm just getting blocked right now, but I appreciate people's comments.
Peter, I had heard that Upazi said that even breathing is a sin. And then I was meditating, was yesterday morning for 7 o'clock, Baba's Jap. And I was realizing that when I breathe out and breathe in between the breath, as we all know in meditation, that's important, because then that's the switch, that's the silent part, because you're not doing anything. That's when you're really silent, split second. And then I said, oh, that's right. I'm breathing out and then I'm breathing in. So that's wrong, because if I'm not breathing, that's when I can, connect with the infinite. That's what meditation, that's what my understanding is, the breathing in and breathing out. Anyway, I said that to say we are all in the same boat. We're all doing a lot of stuff, and we're trying to get better. And we have Baba to give our junk to. I'll say it again. Excuse me for repeating myself. Thank you, Jay Baba.
Yeah. Let's see what Stu's been in line there. Yeah.
Yeah, Peter especially, I've said it before, but I've concluded that honestly, the only things that really come naturally to me are from my lower self, and everything else takes effort. You know, and I'm serious. You know, so I have to turn to Baba.
Beautiful. Okay, now let's see. Mahu was next.
Okay, I can relate with what Peter is saying, and Peter, none of us are exception. We also have our times, you know, when even though that we're trying to stay, you know, still, trying to bring stillness to our being and aside from our thoughts and reside in our hearts, but so much is happening that is not even under our control. So much is happening around us that may cause us to just be shaken and going here and there, especially in this time of Meher Baba's awakening. That's my take, because I experience it every day. About 5 days ago, I was really emotionally overwhelmed for no reason. And I did realize that I've been listening to the news happening around me, and that has impacted me. So we all, due to our background and then past incarnations and so forth, and sanskaras that we have, we each have different weaknesses and strength, and so it's, to me, it's one's effort. See, this title of this book is always stays with me: Effort and Grace. Effort and Grace. Of course, Baba is always there to help us, but my experience with Baba is he makes sure, and I know he does that for my own growth, he makes sure that I do my best in whatever that I have in hand or discussing with him. Then he steps in. Then I can even easily, at times, I can even see his footprints. But many times I beg him. I am on my knees asking him to help me. It's not happening. I guess, I don't know. I mean, I can't understand it with my intellect. Of course, it's hard to understand God. God is to be experienced. But my experience with him is that he wants me to do my best, and that's what it's needed for me to go through this involutionary process of getting closer to him and getting closer to the source. So I trust him 100%. I have no worries in life because I trust God. God is my only thing to rely on, to lean on, because he is sustaining me. Without him, impossible, especially us as the lucky ones who are in touch with the God in human form. And look at the world. Look at all this suffering now that people are going through. My heart goes out to them. And sometimes I have to shield myself not to get really affected by that. And that only gives me opportunity to just realize what a gift we have. And we take it for granted. I take it for granted. Because according to what Mera said, whatever moments that goes by and we don't remember him, it's a waste. Not worth living. Well, of course, that's Mera's standard. But I also like to share something that has helped me so much, Peter. Hopefully it helps you and others. because so this is something by Buddha. It's a Buddha saying. And then he says, I read it to you. He says, your diet is not only what you eat, it's what you watch, what you listen to, what you read, the people you hang around. Be mindful of the things you put into your body, emotionally, spiritually, and physically. That does it for me. And immediate, that brings me to some level of alertness, because as soon as I put the junk in there in my psyche, or even I eat the junky food, which I don't, but sometimes I'm lazy, I don't cook, so I go outside, immediately I have to pay the price. Immediately I have to pay the price. Same thing with our mind, with our psyche, with, you know, we're just constantly being bombarded by many things. So it does need extra effort at this time, I feel. Thank you, and Jay Baba.
Thank you. We'll have one last person, Ruth, and then I think we should start the heart-centered meditation. So go ahead, Ruthie.
Okay, thanks.
I couldn't get the password this morning to hear all of you guys.
Oh, it changed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Mastery through servitude. Anyway, what I'd like to say is that when I saw your quote, Peter, the thing that struck me was that you said that you didn't feel Baba's love. Well, hello, neither do I. It's not like a common thing for me to live in that presence. And I am a junkie for it. That's all I crave, is to feel Baba with me or to feel his love. But you know, there are just times in my week, maybe, I can't even say every day, where I have just a hint of it. And for me, when it comes, I have to weep. That's all I can do if I get that sense of presence. And I would reiterate what everyone else is saying. For me, I have to think in terms of kindness, in terms of being open, in terms of remembrance, in terms of his name, in terms of my interactions with others, and to keep them on as high a level as at that moment I can, because I get snarky a lot too. So I get the snarky part, you know, that's something I have to continually look at and work on. But I just want to say that I don't live in that state of Baba's constant love. I do not live there. I'm sure everybody else on this Zoom screen does. Just you and me, Peter, we don't. So that's all I got, you know. And when I saw what you posted, the longing is what bounced at me. It was the longing, and that I relate to. That I really relate to. Jai Baba.
Yeah, Jai Baba. So let's, Stu, we'll turn it over to you.
Okay, Jai Baba. And could we all make sure we're muted, please?
Stu, before you begin, there's something ticking away. Hear that?
Yeah, I heard it once. Yeah.
Someone's got something going there. Okay.
Yeah, I think everybody's muted otherwise. Okay. Okay. So just let yourself sink into wherever you're sitting or laying. And we'll let the world drift away even a little more as we go through this. And And start taking some full, gentle breaths into your belly. And we'll keep this up through the meditation. And now bring your awareness to your heart, your heart center. And it's the home in you, in all of us, of Meher Baba's infinite love, which is constantly flowing and accessible. And breathe into your heart and that endless pool of love that Baba gives us. And now pick somebody who you would like to focus on sharing Baba's infinite love with. And this could be a person or a group, and this can work magically well in the situation of a conflict, but let your heart guide you. You could also pick someone you know is struggling, say, or somebody you already feel a lot of love for. Just whoever comes up who you'd like to focus on sharing Baba's infinite love with. And get a good image of them in your mind and your heart. So see them before you and take note of whatever you might see and feel as you picture them. And breathe in as you start to picture Baba's infinite love flowing endlessly into their heart and heart center and filling every bit. And this love can be magical and transformative. It's healing and soothing, enlightening, forgiving, uplifting. And there's no end to it. So I see this wonderful, warm, liquid, golden light of love just flowing, giving warmth and healing and peace. And you never know what magic this love might bring. And now see and feel Baba's infinite love overflowing from their heart and heart center and flowing gently right through their heart and still filling and cleaning every bit. And now filling every bit of their being. And bringing the wonder of the love. And let's stay here another moment. And now let's give thanks for being able to focus with the gift of Baba's infinite love. And know that you can keep returning here again and again. And bid farewell just for now to whoever you've chosen. And gently bring your awareness back to your own heart center. And breathe in as you gently settle back in there. And now let's start to see Mayor Baba's infinite love gently pouring into our own hearts. And see an endless flow of this love that cannot end. And the flow is bringing healing and soothing, calming, a brightening and forgiving, inspiration. And keep breathing in as you see and feel this infinite love just flow in and through your heart center. And filling every bit. And warmly overflowing. And now filling every bit of your being with its pure wonder. And again, you never know what magic this love might bring for you. And now let's give thanks to Baba for being able to focus on the flow of his infinite love into and through our own hearts and every bit of our beings. And know that we can return here again and again. and know that Baba gives this love to us freely without end. And now gently bring your awareness back to wherever you're sitting or laying. And take some good breaths as you slowly adjust to being back. And whenever you're ready, open your eyes. And if anybody would like to share anything, we'd love to hear from you.
Just had at the very end, this just came in that no matter what else, we've been here for between 2 and 3 hours, saying Baba's name with each other and listening to it, and with our hearts in the direction of wanting to please him. And really, that pleases him. There's nothing more. That's it. I mean, I don't know that that's it. I'm just saying what the thoughts were that came to me, but it's like we're not asked to do more than that.
Mm. Yeah, thank you, Janet.
It seems the more that I've been able to participate with this meditation, the more I can feel not only the flowing out to somebody, but the flowing in. It just gets richer and richer, Stuart. Thank you.
That's great.
Yeah, lovely, Kathy. Yeah.
Glad to hear that, Kathy.
Just want to say, Janet, thank you for sharing that. That touched me so deeply. And just like what you said, Kathy, I'm starting, I felt yesterday like loving myself, like that's enough. Like if there's no people on the planet around me, or if the people that I thought I should have been with are not, like I can love me too, not just Baba, like I can love me. And I had that feeling again with that, the second part, directing it into the self. And I think that's so necessary to really love others, is to know how to love me. Like the greater self, the higher self, loving the Cindy personality self. And that reliance on people, like maybe I'll still rely on people, but it'll just be me and Baba until it's just Baba. So I'm so grateful for the experience and what you shared, Janet, too. It's like, it's just enough that we come together and hear Baba's name and say Baba's name and are longing for freedom and love. Thank you so much.
Yeah, Cindy, you seem different too. Yeah.
Stuart, I would like to feedback on an experience. I had a challenging time steadying this and flowing with it, but what I did was I pictured my sister on the right, and let's just say a soulmate on the left, just to put two people in there and putting love with them, because my sister's someone that I said I used to love more than life itself, but we may be done at this point. There's a lot of ill feeling there. And on the other side was like a soulmate to say, okay, let's put love into her to see, to maybe draw her closer. And I'm just thinking to myself, I wonder if that's maybe a conflict, putting someone that I love and I also have tremendous, really strong ill feeling toward, and then someone that I want to love or that I do, and trying to draw them in. This is really like a tough question, but I just want to pose it to you anyway. I can, you can bow out. And do you have any feedback on that? You're like the master.
Well, I've never heard of anybody doing that, but it doesn't mean not to do it. And you were drawn to do it. The one thing I'd say about picturing a potential beloved is, I recommend you just seeing Baba's infinite love coming in, and then it's up to him. So you're not trying to make something happen, but you have an intention, and you're seeing his infinite love come, and then see where that goes. So that would be my feedback.
I'm thinking of the discourse where Erich talks about making the effort. So that's where my mind is conflicted with. It was a wonderful discourse called Making the Effort, which has him say, do it like we're doing it for Baba, and then giving him the credit. So I'm a little conflicted with that. So I'll chew on it. All right, thanks, Stuart.
Yeah, well, I know what works for me, and this was the first time I actually started working with the process of picturing sending love to somebody. It's a lot of years ago. And as I learned it, it was quite rudimentary. I've said this before, but I was picturing sending my love to someone where there was a conflict. And I felt something, but there was a limitation. And then it came to me, wait a minute, what if I could picture Baba's infinite love going to them? And the question came, gee, do I want them to have that? And I said, well, sure. And it took me out of the equation. And then the question came, do I want them to be happy? And I said, sure. And that just felt removed from me, Peter. And just picturing Baba's love and in fact, something magical did take place. I kept doing this for a few weeks, right? And after several weeks, there was this magical transformation that took place. But I wasn't trying to bring about any particular result out of it, right? So you get that distinction I'm making?
Not, unfortunately not. I was focused on about 90% of what you said. And I mean, I heard what you're saying about you sending love, then somehow taking yourself out of the picture and putting Baba's love into it. And something got confused in there about the distinction. And maybe you may not be able to explain it all right now for me to get, because my mind's a little jumbled.
Well, I'll try a quick explanation. When I was just trying to send my love, it felt good but limited. And then when I pictured Baba's love, there was no limit to it. And there was a purity and a cleanliness to it. And Baba's love could bring whatever magic it's going to. But my love maybe had kind of some strings to it, if that makes sense. So I'm just trying to picture Baba's infinite, grace-filled love. Probably the best I can say.
May I say something?
Sure.
So, Peter, what I would say is that you send the love and then you leave the results to Baba, which I think essentially is what Stuart was saying, and that he was sending Baba's infinite love, which is not limited by our own sanskaras, thoughts, what we think should happen. And so then what Baba wants to happen will happen. Anyway, I'm just offering that. It's,
yeah.
I had, because I was already kind of having a heartbreaking moment before we went into this, because I was feeling for Peter, actually. So I continued in this vein during the meditation. I won't go into the whole meditation, but I was crying through the whole thing. That's never happened before. Just streams of tears. And I'm not quite sure what was activated, but obviously something incredibly deep that makes me incredibly sad that was being released. And yeah, anyway, that's all I want to say about it, because it was so personal. Thank you.
How do you feel now, Elizabeth, if you'd want to share that?
Oh, I feel fine. It was, it took me by surprise. I think I know why it happened. And it wouldn't have happened unless we had this whole exchange with Peter. So Peter, what he said and my misunderstanding, and then the discussion, the very intense discussion afterwards, is what made it possible for me to go through the meditation in this way, which was very different than other ways. Anyway, it's so private, I can barely talk about it. So.
Yeah. Oh, thank you for sharing it. Thank you.
You know, one of the beautiful things about love is it really doesn't have an agenda. It kind of springs out spontaneously and expresses itself, but it's not trying to get a result, but it kind of knows that beautiful things will happen, but it doesn't have like an intention in the same way that things that come from us. You know, you throw a birthday party for somebody. If it comes from love, you do it, and you have fun doing it. And you call people, and you get a cake, and you get everybody together. But if nobody really enjoyed it, I mean, they will. But if they didn't, that's fine, because it was kind of a celebration within your own heart. I mean, you already experienced the fulfillment of being a vehicle for love, and the results are secondary, or even that's a beautiful thing. Whereas everything else kind of has an intention, and it's all right to have good intention, but love, I find, has no agenda, like you say, no strings attached.
Yeah.
It just springs out and goes through us, through our body, mind, and heart, and gets expressed. And it's a beautiful thing.
Put that
Jeff,
on my
can I ask a
refrigerator.
follow-up question? Go ahead.
I just want to put that on my refrigerator. Like, love has no agenda. So if I have an agenda, I know that the love, I'm sure there's love in everything, but that it's been entangled with my wants, my big W's that give me the big S suffering. So that's really beautiful.
Yeah. And it's hard to wait around for what love wants to do. The situation may require that you have to do something, and it's hard to wait around, have the patience to see what love would like to do. And it's really what you can say is Baba, and you can say it's love. And sometimes I don't have the chance. There's a time constraint. But if I can wait and let love be the doer, it's a lovely thing. It's a celebration. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Marcia?
Well, earlier, Jeff, you were talking about the sun always being there, but there's clouds, and Baba's always there, but we don't always, see him or whatever. But today I was walking, and it was very, very cloudy. And I was saying, gee, Baba, would you like to shine out for a little bit? And then the sun didn't come out. But then a few minutes later, the clouds parted and the sun came out, and there was a ring around it. And I sucked up. I said, I got to stop. And I turned around and said, I'm going to get all this energy for all this meditation today. And then a lady came by with her dog. And then she said, I don't usually talk to people. But I said, well, take a look at the sun. It's shining, right? And then it went away, but it's always there, and it's kind of like I thought it was a gift, So it gives you these little things, like you said, when you're down and out, and then all of a sudden there's like a flash, something that shows you he's right there, he or she, because I look at God as,
Yeah, that sunlight is always waiting to come through. It's not like we have to earn it. But if just the sun scar is clear for a little bit, that sunlight comes in and illumines
amazing, it's
our
like,
interior. Yeah.
It's like that song, "Oh, Let the Sunshine In."
Yeah.
Yeah. So Peter, you had wanted to say something else?
Yeah, it's because what something to do with what Jeff was saying. It's confusing to me, and to me it makes love black and white. And sometimes in the circles I'm in, what I've learned to be bothered by is if people make like this snarky comment, right, or something, they can get, I'll say, either vicious or something that has an undertone of it. And I've heard people say, well, that's not love. Now, when I hear Mayor Bob and Amanali saying everything is love, everything is him, and I've heard people say, well, if you look at what is, let's just say, really like and I'm going to try to just remember his words the best I can, that it's not that what happens is not a weakness, but like a lower form of love that, oh, help me out here. I'm trying to just roll words around this, that it's like if somebody says something, I don't want to say vicious, but with an edge, or they have like an abrupt statement that was snippy or kind of nasty. And I've heard people say many times or enough times, well, that's not loving. And, if something happens which is just really diabolical, let's just say, and people say, well, that's not Mayor Baba. But on the other hand, I've heard people say, well, there's a lesson. Mayor Bob is giving us a lesson because we can see Bob in that action. It's challenging in my mind, looking and saying, okay, well, if I'm being really nice and sweet, then that's Baba's love coming through. And people can say, well, no, okay, let me take that last people can say back. It just, to me, it makes love too black and white in my book. And it makes me think I'm just doing something wrong if I have that lower part of me come in. And I'm not sure even how to follow that up. It's just, I'm conflicted thinking that it makes love black and white as opposed to saying everything's him. It just gets a little bit, I don't know. It's like on some level, I have to put my mind into it to kind of figure it out. And then when I see, well, that, what's been presented to me many, many times by spiritual mentors is, Peter, there's a no-win situation here. There is a no-win situation. So just remember, it's all him. See God in everything. When I see my sister, see the Baba in her. When I see someone else that I hate or someone that I'm really angry with, see the Baba in them, send them love, see the lesson in it. I'm just going to leave it at that and just put it out there.
And I just want to suggest that, like, what has helped me tonight, of course, all the teachings, all the energy is just in the present moment. And I'd invite you to consider this, Peter. Have you felt the love coming from Baba through people for you? Like, to allow to receive that love in this moment. Like, that's what I feel with Shraddha and Kathy and everyone, that just like, it's like, oh, like, since I still am human and I'm not God realized and I don't always perceive Baba, but in this environment, just to soften up my mental construct and my defenses so I can just let some divine love in coming through this human form. And I know that I felt outpouring for you today, for people, and then being in the present now of that. So maybe not being able to understand it, but for a moment in time, I gave and received love. And I know, like, my personal experience is like, a thirsty woman drinks, a starving woman eats, a woman in pain feels relief. That's the experience I have. And have had this evening, coming into it pretty gunked up. So I'm so grateful for that.
Yeah. Beautifully said, Cindy.
Yeah, I just want to respond as briefly as I can and say, when people gave me feedback, for the most part, yes, I can feel a degree of the love. And then when there's detachment, which is unfortunately necessary because we can't get all wrapped up in Peter, we need to move on, then it drifts away and it's painful. It's like this detachment with love to me is very painful. When people detach from me with love, it's very painful. I feel the pain. I understand they're doing it for that they need to do it. That it's just that people need to do it. They can't get all wrapped up in what I'm doing. It's for their own protection. So yes, I do feel a degree of the love. Yes, and I appreciate it. And Elizabeth's comments, I don't even know what to say. I appreciated it, and I was just taking his name while you were saying what you did. Not sure what to make of it all, and this is longer than I had anticipated. I mean, yes, I feel the love. The sad part is it drifts away pretty quick. I keep some of it with me. The detachment afterwards painful, and it gives me a bit of hope. And I also go back to the other place and realize I learned to survive it until, because that's what I need to do. And I have very strong confidence that I'll follow the spiritual directions long enough so I will survive it. I'm not worried about that. It just sucks. But I do appreciate your comments, Cindy. And yes, I did receive some of that love. Don't know how else to answer your question right now. I'll pass. I'll probably end up crying after this too while I make my dinner. I had my lemon water. I had my celery juice to go with what Mahu was saying about, eating healthy and all that stuff. But it's my weekend and also pigged out on cookies, which is so not like I haven't pigged out on cookies in I don't know how long. It's been maybe 20 years. Well, maybe not that long. All right, I'll cut it loose there.
Peter, I hope you can remember that a lot of people were sending you love tonight. I hope you can just remember that. Just tell yourself that.
There was one thing I saw in my meditation today towards the end. And I felt exactly like Elizabeth, because as we went in, we were mostly heartbroken. And towards the end, I almost saw some picture where there were a lot of people with a lot of colored ropes and holding on their hands tightly. And they were all going round and round with different colored ropes. So there was a beautiful pattern with different colored ropes, all unifying them together. I don't know what it signified, but I think that's got something to be. All of us are in probably the same boat, tied with that same rope. We have different colors, different aspects of things to be experienced in our lives that our sanskaras bring us.
I don't know how to say your name correctly. Shraddha, is that right? Shraddha.
Yeah.
So part of my meditation was actually the whole group of Effort and Grace. So you're saying that is really wonderful, because in the first part I was thinking of one person, and actually, Peter, it was you. I don't know if you felt it, but I didn't really want to say anything earlier. Too many people, but I hope somehow you felt something. But in any case, thank you for saying that, Shraddha. That's very uplifting.
Yeah, Baba gave that figure of the sun passing through a prism and being refracted into all different colors. But all those different colors are really the one light. They all seem like they're different, but it's really we're all really different colors of that same one light. It's not like we have to become the one light. We already are, but experiencing that's a different thing. Wow.
You know what it sounds like to me, maybe Stuart or Cindy or any of you people who seem to know a lot about these things. It sounds to me like Baba's also letting us know we need to be receptive, to love that is sent from others, and that it has to do with Baba talks about paying attention. What do we pay attention to? And that, and also that reinforces the idea of focusing attention on the higher self, the better part of other people and of ourselves. And then when we do that with others, we're uplifting ourselves. And that Baba wants us to be the best of who we are. We had some sessions on that maybe 3 weeks ago. And then to be receptive and to be that receptacle, we do have to be empty of all those things that would limit that love from coming in.
Well said, Elizabeth, and I'd say we're working toward that anyway, working toward being emptied, because we're a work in progress.
Yeah. Baba, I got to go myself, but one beautiful thing that Baba said is the difference between someone on the on the gross plane, someone who's on the sixth plane, and God. He gave the figure, I think it was at Merazad. Someone on the sixth plane is on the roof of Merazad, 14 feet up. Someone who's on the gross plane is down on the ground, but God is the sky. And the difference between someone on the gross plane and someone on the sixth plane is only 14 feet. But the difference between someone on the sixth plane is like this infinite sky up there. So no one is really that close, and yet we're sitting right in the lap of God at the same time. It's hard to wrap your head around it, or your mind around it. But I do have to go, but great to see all of you. It's a thrill to see you. And yeah, and we'll see what Baba does. We got
thank you, Stuart. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Jeff.
Angela.
Thank you
everybody.
all.
Peter.
You guys make it
Peter,
all happen.
before you go, could I say something to you?
Yeah.